Kim Suo, or rather Lloyd Frontera in this realm, was once an ordinary civil engineer, but now holds the power to transform the world. In a moment of triumph, Lloyd joyfully reveals his wealth to his servant Javier. The sight leaves Javier wondering if his master has finally lost his mind. A few years ago, Kim woke up in a different world, only to discover that he had somehow entered the very novel he had read the night before. This bewildering situation left him questioning his sanity, wondering if it was some sort of wish fulfillment or just plain madness. Unexpectedly, a person named Javier appeared, addressing him as young Master Lloyd. Surprisingly, Kim had taken over the character of Lloyd Frontera, eldest son of Baron Frontera, from the book Blood and Iron's Night. Javier, resembling the novel's illustrations, led Kim to the mansion in search of Lloyd. In the Baron's mansion, Lloyd discovered that he couldn't recall how he ended up destroying a bar while drunk. Somehow he stumbled home but collapsed. Javier, showing true concern, sought him out. Lloyd's knowledge of a novel unfolded, hinting at the tragic fate of the Baron and Baroness, deceived and driven to ruin, ending in suicide. Lloyd, a reckless, impoverished drinker, met a grim demise, coughing blood. It remained a mystery why an all-powerful being had taken over Lloyd's body, and what its true intentions were. The next morning, in the presence of Javier and Marvella, Lloyd was asked to apologize. Though he agreed, he secretly believed the body's original owner was responsible for the actions in question, leaving both Marvella and Javier shocked by his answer. In the village, Lloyd was surprised to find Javier still following him as his guard. Javier's task was to prevent any trouble. He dreamed of a carefree life as an heir, clearing his family's debts. Frustrated by his seemingly useless skill, they entered the bar again. Lloyd apologized to the owner, who forgave him, but Javier warned that compensation was needed. Feeling his family's debt burden, Lloyd wondered why they didn't collect taxes. To repay the Baron family's debt, he planned heated stone slab floors. Yet a shocking notice emerged. His relationship points with Javier hit 0. In a world where relationship points govern connections, Lloyd finds himself intrigued by this mysterious concept. When he discovers Javier's unfavorable impression of him at -30, he decides to play it cool. However, the counterintuitive response lowers the points even further to -31. Determined to handle the situation wisely, they retreat to the bar, putting their emotions on hold for the moment. In the bar, Lloyd finds himself in a bind when the owner suspects his intentions. Using his mind wall skill, the owner tries to read Lloyd's thoughts. To counter this, Lloyd employs a clever trick involving his bum image, convincing the owner to sign some papers. Later, as Lloyd tried to scale down the project, he was confronted by Javier, who accused him of intimidating the owner to sign the contract. Lloyd revealed his use of cognitive distortion to challenge prejudice and negative thinking, while Javier argued it was based on experience and estimation, leading Lloyd to contemplate the origins of such judgments. Despite facing exhaustion, Lloyd worked tirelessly using lumber from the Baron family mansion and red clay soil from the riverside to build the house. Impressed by Lloyd's dedication, Javier joined in to help, showcasing his skills. Although initially feeling a bit angry at Lloyd's request for help, Javier eventually agrees to cooperate. Together, they complete the house and Javier is amazed by the signboard's logo, designed by Lloyd. Though Javier was happy to see them smile, his admiration for Lloyd decreased slightly as he noticed a change in his character. However, Lloyd was pleased with the improved relationship and gained 36er, considering the wood expense for the successful execution of his first contract well worth it. A few days later, a wave of potential buyers approaches him to negotiate house deals. While busy attending to a customer's queries about the house construction, Lloyd cleverly offers a 10% discount if they sign up for both designs. However, the customer hesitates. Just then, Arcus Frontera intervenes and questions Lloyd's actions. This unexpected encounter leaves Lloyd anxious as he watches his father. In a mansion, Lloyd and Arcus share a tense dinner. Arcus inquires about Lloyd's latest project, to which he responds that the pub owner ordered an ongo room, and so he built him one. Arcus was doubtful of Lloyd's intentions, so he warned his son that he won't tolerate any trickery. Lloyd then clarifies that he has no such intentions. As Lloyd prepares to leave, Arcus asks if it was because of the family's financial issue, and says that Lloyd doesn't need to worry, promising that he'd fix things. Memories of broken promises make Lloyd realize that his unhappiness is more than just about money. While wandering, he witnesses Loan Shark Meatloaf and Loan Shark Shello disrespect a baron's son. Inside Arcus' room, Meatloaf confronts him for postponing something important. Lloyd sees an opportunity to act and encourages his father to endure. Later, Lloyd wonders how to use his relationship points and decides to ask the system for advice. To his surprise, the system scans him, revealing he can acquire 2 new skills: basic measurement and basic design. With 36er, he swiftly acquires these skills and witnesses their might through a blueprint he created himself. But his thirst for knowledge doesn't end there. A notification reveals he can summon fantasy creatures with 50er, sparking dreams of dragons and more. To achieve this, he must gain ARP and favor from key characters. Meanwhile, in Arcus' room, tension runs high as Meatloaf demands payment for debts, or else a dark plan involving Arcus' loved one will be carried out. However, Lloyd intervenes just in time, asserting his noble rights and protecting the mansion. Lloyd summons Javier to handle the trespassers, scaring them off. Their actions leave Arcus frustrated, wondering about their intentions. In response, Lloyd hands over a bag of money to Arcus, surprising him with his extortion tactics. Javier promises to keep an eye on Lloyd's actions. After leaving Arcus' room, they engage in a discussion about the law, with Lloyd revealing the gained knowledge from Javier's novel. When a couple dies, 2 loan sharks try to exploit the situation, but Javier steps in, using a kingdom article to thwart their plans. He swiftly deals with the loan sharks with a bluff, making them run for their lives. Surprisingly, Javier is acquitted at his trial. As the tension eases, a message informs Lloyd of his 60er reward for bonding with a key character. Under the night sky, Lloyd finds himself in a secluded area and decides to try his luck with the summoning game. After summoning a small hamster named Podong, Lloyd feels disappointed. However, Podong persuades him not to give up and proves its worth by spitting out a manual. According to the manual, Podong can be taken care of with love and can be fed sunflower seeds to change their size. The red seed makes Podong huge, while the blue seed makes it small. Intrigued, Lloyd feeds Podong a red seed, making it grow significantly. Lloyd is amazed as Podong displays its remarkable abilities, especially in solving heavy machinery problems. In the mansion, Lloyd hatches a plan to avoid suspicion by bringing Podong along. He says that he'll just carry a summoning book and pretend to be a genius summoner instead. The next morning, Lloyd directs 30 military personnel to work on a heated room construction project for the estate's people, using the soil Podong dug up overnight. The workers feel disheartened about the task. Unexpectedly, Frontier Barony Senior Knight Newman shows up and questions Lloyd's orders. Lloyd anticipated Newman's arrival and calmly faced him. Newman is one of 3 knights in the estate, with Baron and the novel's protagonist Javier Azarhan being the others. While Baron and Javier remained loyal until the estate's collapse, Newman was the first to betray the Baron, selling information to swindlers and accumulating debts. Lloyd challenges Newman's disapproval of using the military for this task, claiming to have the Baron's permission. Newman accuses Lloyd of personal motives, and tensions rise. Lloyd grabs a shovel and throws soil at Newman, infuriating the knight. Newman accuses Lloyd of tarnishing a knight's reputation, to which Lloyd responds by challenging him to a duel, surprising Newman. In the Grand Mansion, Javier and Lloyd have a serious talk about Lloyd's doubt about winning a duel against the famous knight, the Manhwa, and a junior sword expert. Unexpectedly, Lloyd surprises everyone by challenging the knight to a duel, seemingly reverting to his mischievous ways. However, there's more to his plan. He wants to make money from it and seeks the Baron's help. Meanwhile, Knight Baron becomes a supervisor for the construction team, leaving Javier puzzled about Lloyd's lack of confidence. Frustrated, Javier decides to confront him. To improve his swordsmanship, Lloyd strikes a deal to cure Javier's insomnia in exchange for lessons. Surprisingly, Lloyd reveals that he knows the cause from a book he read. In the novel Blood and Iron's Knight, the knights are ranked in 4 levels, and Javier is an advanced sword expert, soon to become a sword master. But he suffers from the sword master syndrome due to his superhumanly sharp nerves, making him unable to sleep. To cope with his insomnia, Javier tries various remedies, eventually resorting to sleeping in a chair. Meanwhile, Lloyd observes Javier accidentally falling asleep while reciting a magic technique. An idea sparks in Lloyd's mind to seize Javier's extraordinary sword skills as his own. In the early morning, Javier kicks off a grueling training session, ordering Lloyd to run 50 laps. Without complaint, Lloyd starts the laps, playfully teasing Javier after each one. As he runs, Memories flood back from his difficult days in Korea, loneliness, poverty, and hardships just to survive. The current challenge pales in comparison to his past struggles. Determined, Lloyd keeps going into the night, showcasing his commitment to Javier. Though impressed, Javier's impression of him drops slightly, and Lloyd gains 18 Erp in return. In a tense talk, Arcus thought Lloyd had changed, but he was mistaken. He asks Newman not to intervene in their duel but also requests him not to be too harsh on Lloyd due to his status as the estate's successor. Newman reluctantly agrees and exits, but unknown to Arcus, Newman plots to defeat and murder Lloyd, even considering framing it as suicide. He plans to exploit the chaos to escape the village. Newman chuckles, grateful that Lloyd's fate would align with his sinister scheme sooner than expected. A month later, Lloyd and Newman prepare to engage in a fierce duel. Newman questions Lloyd's readiness, to which Lloyd responds with unwavering confidence. In the aftermath, a tense face-off occurs between Newman and Lloyd. The crowd is curious about Lloyd's ability to stand against Newman armed only with a shovel. Arcus wonders if Lloyd is just joking around, but Javier disagrees. He reflects on how dedicated Lloyd has been in his training, from early morning basic exercises to teaching the village engineers about the ondol and late-night sword practice. Javier is convinced that Lloyd is serious. As the clash begins, Newman charges at Lloyd, who expertly deflects his attacks with a shovel, displaying exceptional skills comparable to actual battle techniques. Lloyd surprises Newman by revealing that his shovel is versatile, acting as both a shield and a powerful cutting tool. As Lloyd's resolve strengthens, Newman resorts to using the mana heart. Javier notes that developing a mana heart typically takes 5 years, and for someone like Lloyd, who lacked talent for a decade, it should be impossible to block such a sword attack. Newman launches a powerful mana heart attack at Lloyd. However, Lloyd counters with his fourth skill, the legendary Azurhand core technique. Astonished, Newman finds himself unable to block Lloyd's direct strike, losing a tooth in the process. Lloyd follows up with another attack, rendering Newman immobile. The crowd and Lloyd's family are left stunned by his prowess. Arcus declares Lloyd the winner, leaving Newman questioning himself how a seasoned sword expert could lose to a perceived scoundrel. Lloyd then readies himself to deliver the final blow. Arcus intervenes, calling an end to the duel, but Lloyd is determined to teach Newman a lesson. As Newman desperately shields his head, Arcus becomes furious with Lloyd's actions. Before we continue, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so we'll know to make more videos like this one. In the midst of Lloyd's attack on Newman, a spectator intervenes to stop him, and Lloyd's rage is subdued. However, Lloyd strikes Newman again, and the spectator stops him once more. Javier points out that Lloyd is intentionally hitting Newman, which won't cause much harm. Lloyd appears strangely calm, as if he knew what would unfold next, and as if he possesses foreknowledge. 15 days before the duel, Lloyd approaches Javier to learn the Azurhand mind technique. Javier is taken aback by the request. Lloyd explains that this technique allows him to attract mana from his surroundings and make it his own, in addition to the ductile mana. When questioned about how he came to know of it, Lloyd reveals that he overheard Javier discussing it in his sleep. Although Javier cannot teach the technique in its entirety, Lloyd proposes that if Javier manages to complete it, he will instruct him. Lloyd believes Javier's mana heart may be absorbing mana from the outside involuntarily, making it crucial to differentiate and apply it separately. Javier acknowledges the possibility and asks how Lloyd figured it out. Lloyd admits that he imagined the solution, leading Javier to successfully complete the Azurhand mind technique. After practicing, Javier can now create up to 3 circles of the circle in the technique. Lloyd receives a notification indicating his favorable progress. When asked how long Javier taught him the mana heart technique, Lloyd clarifies that he only wanted to learn the absorption aspect and didn't need the rest. Javier anticipated Lloyd's ability and predicted his triumphant victory against Knight Newman. In the midst of the heated situation, Arcus grows infuriated with Lloyd's actions and vows to put an end to the tarnishing of a knight's reputation. However, Lloyd commands Arcus to look beneath the tablecloth, where he discovers numerous incriminating letters that leave him frustrated. Lloyd then reveals that he obtained these letters through Podong, describing himself as a kind man in a novel. As the crowd watches in curiosity, Lloyd suggests dealing with Newman by subjecting him to a ferocious rat or demoting him to a regular soldier for a chance at redemption. In a just decision, Arcus offers Newman a chance to repent while warning of further punishment if needed. Lloyd argues that forgiveness for wrongdoers only leads to manipulation, not genuine atonement. Meanwhile, Newman silently plans revenge as Lloyd reveals that Newman's smile will be short-lived. Lloyd unleashes Podong, who transforms into a bigger and stronger hamster, crushing Newman. Lloyd explains that sometimes the best method to seek forgiveness is through silence or nothing. The surprising display of Podong amazes the crowd and Lloyd's family. With Newman's menace finally dealt with, the problem of this rotten man in the estate is resolved permanently. In the village, Podong effortlessly digs up the road, and the timid engineering unit surprisingly becomes hardworking too. Lloyd reveals a plan to create a road system like the ancient Roman Appian Way, starting from the Baron's mansion to the eastern hillside, which will boost the estate's popularity. Javier questions how Lloyd came up with such innovative ideas and suspects he might not be their true master. However, Lloyd is confident, having prepared for any challenges. Javier teases Lloyd for only knowing how to drink alcohol, but is impressed with his mana control skills. They playfully argue about being geniuses until Lloyd decides to leave to check something. Knight Baron takes charge of arrangements in Lloyd's absence. Javier insists on accompanying Lloyd to fulfill his duty of observing the young master. Lloyd reveals they're going to a distant place to settle unpaid bills. In the remote small town of Rudenia Estate, the real estate scammer Thords is seething with anger over his lost money. Suddenly, a mysterious black magician confronts Thords, demanding payment, but Thords insists he can still pay and offers even more. Determined to escape the wrath of those seeking him, Thords plots to deceive others for money while hiding from his pursuers. Just as Thords is about to put his plan into action, a man named Lloyd appears, sending him into a panic. The black magician proposes that Thords kill Lloyd, but instead, Thords opts to flee. The black magician takes hold of Thords and leaps out of a window. As they walk, the black magician encounters Javier, who wields a sword. Javier demands Thords be handed over, warning that otherwise, the black magician will be considered an accomplice. Forced to deal with Javier, the black magician resorts to using magic and asks if Javier knows how to use a sword. Meanwhile, Lloyd watches from a window, observing Javier, who seeks revenge for losing the Baron and faces off against Thords' bodyguard, a scammer he had managed to track down, and the first black evil magician he encountered. Javier struggles against the power of gravity magic, but now possesses a mana heart with triple circles, far stronger than the ordinary senior sword expert he once was. Javier questions the black magician about the magic controlling gravity, causing the magician to fall silent in the face of Javier's seriousness. In the midst of the confrontation, Thords manipulates the situation and hurls the black magician away. Javier then confronts Thords, asking if he knows the gravity of scamming a nobleman, a question that terrifies Thords. Javier prepares to strike Thords down, but Lloyd intervenes, stopping Javier and warning him of potential consequences in court. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Lloyd and Javier manage to capture Thords and restrain him. Thords was trembling with fear, but Lloyd reassured him that there's nothing to be scared of as he points out how people become greedy when their lives are at stake. Thords then asked for forgiveness, to which Lloyd responded by promising not to reveal this incident to the authorities. However, Lloyd posed a condition for forgiveness. He asked Thords to return all the money he had stolen. Thords agreed to return the money if Lloyd forgave him. However, Lloyd had one more demand: a contract. He offered a seemingly ordinary contract but with a twist. Thords would receive payment, but 80% of his salary would go towards repaying the stolen money, spread over a 520-year period. Thords protested, deeming the contract unfair. In a final attempt to ensure justice, Lloyd firmly grasped Thords' wrist, compelling him to sign the contract, which would be presented in court. Tears streamed down Thords' face as he reluctantly signed, forever bound by the consequences of his actions. By the next morning, Lloyd and Javier share a conversation. Later, they put up a job notice for employee recruitment at Frontier Estate, with a 20 gold salary attracting numerous applicants. Lloyd wonders if people dislike him, but then Javier replies how Lloyd managed to deliver an affordable ondol construction, took care of the traitor and even called for a summon, which made him a trustworthy and talented man in the eyes of the people. Lloyd spaced out for a bit, so a man from the crew asked about the work contract in order to grab his attention. But before he signed, he thanked Lloyd because his child's cold has improved due to the ondol. Lloyd feels ashamed, realizing his greed motivated him. The man mentions Rakonen Estate and requests Ondol construction there too. Lloyd agrees, but they need money for the journey. Javier wonders about the mountain road. Lloyd then confides in Javier about their dwindling resources due to the excessive use of Ondol. He reveals his plan to cancel the construction of the Appian Way and instead extract valuable bituminous coal at the road's end to sell at high price. Lloyd believes that by promoting Ondol's popularity, resistance will be futile, though only a select few will receive discounts. Javier finds this plan unfair, but Lloyd argues it's necessary to pay off their estate's debt. Lloyd is confident in his ability to excavate using the modern shield method, despite the weak ground. Meanwhile, in the nearby cave, dangerous giant ants await the construction of bituminous coal. Amidst designing a floor plan, Lloyd yearns for a powerful skill to effortlessly summon buildings. He voices his desire to conjure 100 undead workers without cost, and the system advises him to draw it manually if unsatisfied. Pleased with this cool skill, Lloyd resumes planning. Following the Newman incident, Lloyd gained 639 ERP due to his favorable impression of various important figures. He decides to upgrade his skills and successfully acquires new ones. Later that night, in a nearby cave, Lloyd uses his intermediate measurement skill to scan the area. He needs to dig here, but it's a daunting task for a human, so he seeks a faster method. Unfortunately, Pudong falls sick due to a road construction project. Realizing the danger of using him later, Lloyd resorts to the fantasy species random draw, hoping for a solution. With enough ERP, the system responds by summoning a worm. Weeks later, a worm named Bell devours the earth, obstructing the shield equipment's path. After the earth's consumption, Bell launches the steel forward, but Javier slices it. Together, they construct a supportive structure for the ground. During the work, Lloyd feels dizzy from oxygen deprivation, but their timely pipe connection prevents unconsciousness. Javier suggests Lloyd should rest like the other workers, but Lloyd, as the person in charge, insists on overseeing the operation. He's determined not to be like those who merely talk big in Korea, some not even showing up. Lloyd is resolute in fulfilling his responsibilities. Grateful for Bell's assistance, Lloyd uses his skill and discovers a vein of bituminous coal, boosting progress tenfold. He commands the workers to dismantle the shield once they reach the coal seam to expand the space, a risky task. Unexpectedly, the ground trembles and Lloyd uses his underground scan to investigate, revealing an unnoticed hole. A gigantic ant emerges, prompting Javier to unsheath his sword. While Lloyd confronts the giant ant, he realizes something not mentioned in the novel. Despite the tension, he suspects there's an entire colony of them. More giant ants surface, and Lloyd directs the workers to evacuate. Javier valiantly battles the ants one by one. Lloyd wonders how many more there are, and if Javier can handle them all. The lack of oxygen won't destroy the shaft they built, and they can rebuild it quickly if it collapses. Lloyd ponders his next move. Javier slaps Lloyd to refocus his thoughts, and suddenly, Lloyd comes up with a daring idea. They'll confront the ants head-on by entering their tunnel. And that's a wrap for our recap of The Greatest Estate Developer. But before we go, I have an exciting announcement. If we can get enough likes on this video, we'll continue with part 2. So if you want to see more of The Greatest Estate Developer, smash that like button and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell to not miss out on more amazing content. See you on the next one.